When a mind is disturbed, death and pleasure can become entwined. As they were one night in 1889 at Massachusetts General Hospital.
I have something for you to drink. It'll make you feel better.
Amelia Finney is a patient in pain. She hopes the medicine will bring relief. But her nurse's intent is not to heal. It's to harm.
She had no empathy for others. She enjoyed what she did.
She could only feel pleasure when she was inflicting pain.
Nurse Jane Toppin gives Amelia a toxic cocktail. As Amelia feels the effect, she's joined in bed by her nurse.
Can you imagine the fear? Waking up in your hospital bed with your nurse straddling you, looking into your eyes, and you are helpless to do anything, even cry out because she's overdosed you with a sedative?
Professor Harold Schechter believes Jane Toppin was one of the most dangerous nurses who ever lived.
Jane Toppin appeared to the world to be a very jolly and caring and nurturing human being. But of course, underneath that, she was the very opposite.
To understand what motivated Jane's crimes, Schechter would have to turn the clock back almost 150 years to New England in 1863. An alcoholic called Peter Kelly enters a Boston asylum. A sole parent, Kelly wants to be rid of his young daughter once and for all.
He was obviously totally incapable of dealing with her, and he put her into an orphanage.
6-year-old Jane will never see her father again. A well-to-do family later takes Jane in, but she is not treated as an equal.
Well, she was taken into this family called the Toppins, but she was never formally adopted, even though she took their name.
The Toppins have a daughter the same age as Jane. But while Elizabeth is lavished with affection and gifts, Jane is treated like a servant.
What are you doing here? Go away. Finish sweeping.
Jane feels excluded. Something in her mind is changing.
Beautiful.
She is becoming disturbed. "20 years later, Jane Toppin is a student nurse.
Hello, Mr. Jake.
While her fellow trainees are motivated by compassion and kindness,
Got a special dose for you today.
Jane is driven by darker desires.
The decision to become a nurse was hers alone, and I believe that decision was to gain access to potential victims. Hospitals became happy hunting grounds for her.
A great advantage of nursing for a personality like Jane Toppin is that it gave her ready access to very helpless victims that she could torture in the various ways that she enjoyed.
Jane is fascinated by the effects of drugs, especially morphine, a drug familiar to forensic pathologists like Janis Amatuzio.
Morphine is an opiate medication. It's been used for centuries to relieve pain. But like all other opiates, when it's used in excess, it has a very dangerous and profound effect.
Jane experiments with poisons on her patients. Patients like Amelia Finney.
Jane Toppin administered some medication to her that put her into a deep slumber, but she was still semi-conscious.
How do you feel?
Morphine has a profound effect, and that is on the respiratory system. And when the respirations slow down, the oxygen in our blood decreases as well. So there's going to be loss of consciousness. And so morphine will depress all of the systems, and in an overdose, the person will simply stop breathing.
Her nurse would go on to become the most prolific female serial killer in American history.
She wanted to be the best and the most famous in the world, the highest body count. She might have achieved that.
Jane Toppin is known to have murdered 31 of her patients. She may have killed dozens more.
Nobody had ever encountered a female murderer, or really even a male murderer, who had killed so many victims so cold-bloodedly.
Jane is so disturbed it doesn't matter who she kills. Where there is death, she finds pleasure.
She murdered young and old. She murdered male and female. She murdered intimate friends and total strangers.
Yet there is one person she wants to hurt more than any other.
Thought I'd bring you some tea. Thank you, Jane.
For 30 years, she watched her foster sister Elizabeth enjoy a life of happiness and privilege. A life Jane herself could only dream of. Now, the time is coming to make her pay. In the summer of 1899 on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, Elizabeth Brigham has mysteriously fallen ill. Her foster sister Jane appears eager to nurse her back to health.
She was a very, very successful private nurse. You know, people just thought that she was a very caring human being.
But Jane Toppin is not what she seems. She will kill 31 people and become America's most prolific female serial killer. Her latest target is her own foster sister.
The primary motivation seems to have been this long simmering resentment of a foster sister who had always seemed to receive so much better treatment from life than she herself had.
Go away. Finish sweeping.
Jane's jealousy of Elizabeth begins in their childhood. When Elizabeth marries a wealthy vicar, it intensifies. Once again, Jane feels left out.
Psychopaths like Jane Toppin, who feel they've been horribly mistreated by the world from a very, very young age, grow up to feel the need to take revenge on the world in turn.
For Jane, this revenge will be sweet and slow.
Jane Toppin took a great deal of pleasure in prolonging the pain and suffering of her victims, really stretching it out over days and even weeks.
A lot of killers are not sadistic. Jane was. She actually derived pleasure seeing the pain that she had inflicted on others. That is sadism.
Later, Jane admits that Elizabeth is the only victim she truly hated. This murder had a clear motive, but what about Jane's other victims? Could her murderous desires be tied to the mental history of her own family? The father who abandoned Jane when she was a child would later succumb to insanity.
His nickname was Kelly the Crack, as in crackpot. And there were these stories that at one point he sewed his own eyelids shut.
But while Jane's father suffered psychotic episodes, losing touch with reality, Jane herself had no such
Her father's act of trying to sew his own eyelid shut is indicative of a very, very severe mental disorder, either schizophrenia or bipolar psychosis. Both of those are inheritable, but I don't think Jane Toppin was insane. Not at all.
Jane is clear-headed and calculated when she kills, making her all the more deadly.
Serial killers like Jane Toppin, they have to murder more and more frequently in order to produce that rush of pleasure.
Jane has been killing for 15 years. But when she's contracted to care for the Davis family, she takes her murder spree one step too far.
I don't think serial killers want to get caught. They simply get sloppy. They get away with it so many times that they begin to think they're invincible and invisible.
Jane is supposed to keep the Davises safe from harm. But one by one, over a period of 6 weeks, she kills them.
She ended up wiping out this entire 4-member family, and that is what ultimately led to her discovery and arrest.
The death of an entire family turns suspicion onto nurse Jane Toppin. She denies the killings, but under questioning by psychiatrists, she confesses in disturbing detail.
Jane was the type of sociopath who liked to brag about what she did. I'm sure every time she bragged about what she did and it shocked people, including the board of Victorian doctors, that gave her even more of a thrill.
Jane shows no remorse, the telltale sign of a sociopath. She spends the rest of her life in a mental institution and is remembered as the most dangerous and disturbed nurse who ever lived.
We perceive nurses like Jane as these angels of mercy who will care for us and nurture us and bring us back to health. Jane Toppin, of course, was the very opposite of that. She was an angel of death.
Obsession drives some women to unspeakable acts, as it did in Malvern, Kansas, in December 2004. 36-year-old Lisa Montgomery arrives home with a new baby. Her husband, Kevin, is thrilled.
Oh my God.
Hey, Lisa, she has your nose, don't you think, Nancy?
Yeah.
But there's something wrong with this happy family picture. The memory haunts Lisa's first husband, Carl Bowman.
The images that run in your head are horrible. The idea of what happened was, I mean, it's horrible. I mean, it still affects me. And I was allowed to see evidence and pictures and stuff, and it was, yeah, it's terrible.
200 miles away in Missouri, a young woman has been savagely murdered. This smiling new mother is the killer.
Who would cut a baby out of a pregnant woman's stomach and leave the woman to die?
A few months earlier, excited mother-to-be Lisa Montgomery is preparing for a new arrival.
She begins to buy diapers. She begins to buy baby items.
I made some tea. Would you like some?
Oh, no thanks, Nancy, I'm fine.
She tells the town, her husband, her children, everyone around her that she's pregnant.
But what even her husband doesn't realize
How far along are you?
I'm in my 3rd trimester.
is this baby won't be coming. Lisa's pregnancy is a lie.
You know, when I was pregnant, I was out here. You know,
She
I was
lied
so
through her
big.
childhood,
Here's my ultrasound.
through her teen years, through her adult life.
Okay. I didn't mean anything.
And one of the lies she perpetrated most often was, I'm pregnant. Lisa would say, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant, but the baby would never come. And then would come another lie. I miscarried.
Crime writer M. William Phelps discovered that Lisa Montgomery is an expert in faking pregnancies.
She begins to wear baggy clothes. She begins to make doctor's appointments, fake doctor's appointments. She begins to swallow air when she's around people to extend her stomach. She asks people, feel my stomach, and tightens it up. It's nice and hard. She begins to do all these things, knowing that when the 9th month comes, she's not going to have a baby.
Mostly sunny skies today with
Lisa had 4 children in her first marriage, but none with new husband Kevin,
with the winds from the south.
all because of another big lie.
Can I feel?
Metro girl has a new lease on life.
It was impossible for Lisa Montgomery to have another child.
I hope it's a girl. I really want a sister.
Her tubes were not tied, her tubes were burned, cauterized,
As long as it's healthy.
which is an irreversible process.
Did you feel that?
Yeah. Yeah.
How could a husband sleep next to his wife for 9 months and not know that she's not pregnant? How could he look at her when she gets out of the shower and not realize she's not pregnant? Didn't he question any of the doctor's appointments? Didn't he go with her to any of the doctor appointments? The answer is no. Lisa Montgomery manipulated this guy to believe that she was pregnant.
After her due date, Lisa's lies will be exposed to the world. But she has a plan. When she befriends Bobby Joe Stinnett online, a terrible idea takes hold.
The one thing she notices about Bobby Joe is that Bobby Joe is pregnant.
I think she looked at it as Bobby Joe would be in an incubator.
For Lisa Montgomery, faking pregnancy has become a dangerous obsession.
She's lying to everybody about being pregnant. She's lying to her kids. She's lying to her husband. She's lying to the town.
Now that she's met pregnant dog breeder Bobby Joe Stinnett, the need to cover up her lies will drive her to do the unthinkable.
Lisa Montgomery is communicating with Bobby Joe Stinnett online as a woman named Darlene Fisher, a dog lover, someone who enjoys these types of dogs that Bobby Joe raises. Darlene Fisher, AKA Lisa Montgomery, makes a date with Bobby Joe to look at some puppies. Inside Lisa's car, she has a knife, a rope, and a home birthing kit.
Bobby Joe, hi.
Darlene,
Nice to
hi.
meet you.
Come on in.
Wow, you look great. You're about to pop.
Well, like, yeah.
In Skidmore, Missouri, unsuspecting Bobby Joe Stinnett opens the door to a monster.
Well, come on in. Would you like a cup of tea?
Oh no, I want to see those dogs, please.
I'll put your bag down and come this way.
Lisa Montgomery looks at the puppy, asks Bobby Joe to bend down, open the cage, pick up the puppy. She took out the rope, put it around the neck, choked her out.
Lisa is ready to steal Bobby Joe's baby. The four-time mother knew just what to do. She has her baby.
This child was very lucky to have survived.
What seems like an act of madness is the bloody work of a calculating killer.
Who would cut a baby out of a pregnant woman's stomach and leave the woman to die? Only a crazy person would do that. However, in this case, this crime was premeditated and well planned. Lisa is not crazy.
Lisa's crime has been building since her childhood.
She began to become an expert at lying. Pathological lying, sure, but more so lying to people in order to, get them to do the things she wanted done.
But those lies would backfire.
Lisa Montgomery's claim is that one of her stepfathers sexually abused her. She complained about being sexually abused, but no one would listen to her. Nobody believed her.
It would be unusual for a little girl who is subjected to a violent, drunken father who sexually abused her to not have some kind of problems in adulthood. For Lisa, I believe those unresolved problems resulted in her need to get attention through phony pregnancies.
One of the first to the crime scene is Sheriff Ben Espy.
There was blood all over the entire room, and it looked like her stomach had exploded. The paramedic hollered at me and said, "You need to get in here. Here is the umbilical cord. It has been cut. There's a baby. You guys need to find a baby."
So the case turns very quickly from a homicide, brutal, graphic homicide, to a missing persons case.
The hunt is on for the missing newborn.
Nancy!
An entire nation is placed on alert.
Meanwhile, Lisa Montgomery, Kevin, her husband, they get up in the morning. They take the baby down to the local diner. They show off the baby. They're just one happy family cruising around town with their new baby.
Well, guys, she's beautiful. Thank you. Go to the nursery.
Lisa's new motherhood won't last long. The plundered body of Bobby Joe Stinnett gives up vital clues.
There was some hair in Bobby Joe's hand, clenched in her fist. And that hair was taken and kept for DNA evidence, which did end up being Lisa Montgomery's hair.
Lisa's deep-seated need to get a baby overrode her planning. She planned out how to get the baby. She did not plan out how to get away with the crime.
Lisa Montgomery is found guilty of murder and sentenced to death. She is one of only 3 women on death row.
I really believe that Lisa Montgomery deserves the death sentence. The brutality of this, and going into this young lady's home and cutting the child out, if anybody deserves it, she does.
It wasn't done because she wanted that baby. That was not the point of it. The point of it was to cover up her lies.
If there's one positive aspect to draw from this case, it's that the baby was returned to its father. And Zeb Stennett has that child in his arms today, and he can raise that baby as Bobby Joe would have wanted.